All right, everybody. Need I say more? Big time Gemini, new moon, conjunct Venus. It's a huge energy of Gemini, big tsunami. But there's some other influences there that we must consider because they're so tight and they're going to make it feel a little bit more constricted and a little more pressure as we go along here. So very important to understand all these different influences so we know how to best navigate it. Oh, I just skipped the whole, oh well. Here's our influence chart. And we're triangulating for the biggest influence. And I have the Gemini symbol so big because it's all these planets are in there. And then, of course, the background signature is all mutable air, i.e. Gemini. So it's all Gemini. But there's these outside influences like Saturn that push a lot of pressure onto 3 of our planets at the new moon. And then Mercury is going to join that square too. So it is a big deal. The Dreambot, I will say, is coming along. I'm pretty happy with that. May take a couple of more weeks before the baseline is up and reliable, trustworthy. I have a way of seeing whether or not the baseline is trustworthy. So I'm just monitoring that, and it is improving. The I-Ching is very correlated very well, just the 56 alone, with Mercury and Jupiter together in Gemini, the Wanderer. It's just, that's what they both do. There's wander around, travel. Mercury is more short-term, short distance, and Jupiter is much more far distant, but that's what they do, is wander, especially in Gemini. However, these change lines denote a little bit of forcing. So like the metaphor in the I-Ching is the bird's nest has burned up. So now can't live in the bird's nest. Now I gotta go wander and find my way. So denotes a little bit of forcing, and that's a direct match to the Saturn square. So we need to include that. And other than that, let's get started. Now, we did have a tie on the Best Comment Award, so what I did was did the tiebreaker with the replies. So the winner is Linda Wozniak. Congratulations. Big pat on the back. The solar flares are sapping my energy was the comment, and I'm sure a lot of us agree. Is that the reason why we have all this weird weather going on, or is that just the false story? Who knows? And then the honorable mention is Anahita Dunn. Anahita Dunn. I think I pronounced it right. But also a tie with the amount of up arrows, but basically saying, my loved one, put your tools down. Someone is not obeying the solution slide. Now, I had the same issue, my loved one not wanting to put her tools down, Miss Angie. But, you know, to be fair, these solution slides are just suggestions. They're not mandates. You have your free will to do what you will. And the reason why we have these solution slides is to best handle it. So in terms of the least amount of energy, the most expeditious, or the best way to use your energy up is to follow the solution slides, but there's nothing that says you must do that. So, all right, here's where I would do the Dreambot, and I'm just reminding myself so I don't get in a bad habit once the Dreambot comes back online. Big picture, we're in the eclipse cycle. We're including this Gemini new moon, so we're in a new lunar cycle, and it will include in the lunar cycle, but not in this week. Well, we will have in the lunar cycle the first of 2 full moons in Capricorn. So neat. But for now, we start with the new moon. So that means start planning perfect activity for Gemini. And we'll go through some ideas on what goals to establish there. And by the end of our CIRF week, inside this vertical dark area, you're going to want to start in on those goals, and the energy is going to be such that you're going to be pent up anyway. Little reminder that we're still in that cosmic cocktail social, and by the time we get into this CIRF report, the new moon in Gemini, the cocktail social sort of switches context because of that square to Saturn. So it's kind of like contains and forces us to learn and more disciplined, whereas before, when it first started, it was just fun and just together and talking and conversing. Now it's a little more serious. And that's the only thing that I'm not saying super serious, but I am saying that the Saturnian discipline sort of puts a little freeze on things, or at least a freeze on the fun part. In other news, Mars this week, in between these two vertical black lines, Mars goes into Taurus. We'll talk about that. We have Mars square Pluto on the 11th. That's an important one. We have the new moon early, very early, just a few hours from now. I think like 7:30 in the morning on Thursday. I'm doing this video, recording it on Wednesday morning. And you can see all these red lines. A lot of these are squares over to Saturn. We have a little bit more of our energy window, and then we'll shift over to 10. This is emotional mayhem because it's all water. Here's our graph for the week. It's just high levels of Gemini and learning, but in a sort of a forced context. All right. New moon in Gemini, right here. And you can see Venus is right there where she's within a half a degree. So very close. And then also intensified with a parallel to the sun. And so you can see 16 degrees in Gemini square over to Saturn at 18, almost 19 degrees. So fairly tight and only getting tighter square, which puts a little pressure on things. Basically, the metaphor that we used in the energy window is this social butterfly. And I don't know why it won't go up. There we go. Social butterfly that we used in the energy window video is usually free to dance around between flowers and fascinating ideas and these people in the background. But now Saturn puts her in a cage. And so can the butterfly integrate Saturn's advice to create empathetic ideas and concepts from other people's perspectives? The other people's perspectives is the Piscean influence from Saturn. And so it's empathy and understanding other people, connecting with the oneness to the group. Can she bring all these people together? These are the expectations of Saturn. And meanwhile, the trines to Pluto will help with the Saturnian test by providing hidden powers of perception and persuasion. And hence there is potential nectar that is very potent here in this alignment. The feelings that when we put all these together that we get, there's going to be high mental energy and social magnetism. That's just the Venus and new moon alone and all the Gemini influence. The ability to perceive hidden trends and share insights with a little bit of help of Pluto. Disillusionment if dreams seem thwarted, because we have this expectation from Saturn. And it is possible to have some petty arguments and miscommunication of things. If people aren't handling their stress very well, their stress from this square, that can pose some issues. It's not just all fun and happy and everything else. There's some discipline and seriousness here. But do remember that 7:37 a.m. is the new moon on 6 June. That's Thursday. And so we need to establish our lunar goals for the month. So here's some ideas. Very Gemini kind of things are learning anything about a variety of subjects, learning anything really. And then our title of the report is this: you must learn, like a forced learning. Develop strong communication skills. There's another one, maybe joining a Toastmasters club if If you want to shore up your public speaking or just talking, ability to communicate, that's a good group. Cultivate a wide social network. If you're like me, social media is really only used for consuming. Well, that's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about using social media in order to connect with others or network and widen your web of influence. So that's an idea. Experiment with different roles and identities. Maintain an agile and adaptable mindset. And pursue parallel or multifaceted projects, because Gemini is known for the ability to keep many plates spinning. And that rings true in my entire life. Friday the 7th, then, day after the new moon, we have the Venus square. Saturn is now exact. And these are one by one. Venus, Sun, and Mercury are going to enter into a perfected square with Saturn. So we'll talk about those as they happen. But this is unfortunately the frozen heart archetype. Emerges like a flower bud in winter. The heart's affections and your ability to attract what it desires feels blocked by a layer of ice. This is fear and insecurity, making it hard to natural synergy to flow freely. The frozen heart may close itself off, believing it is unworthy of love. So you might have to prove yourself to others, especially because Saturn is in Pisces. And in order to connect, there might feel this expectation to meet the expectations, or you might have to prove yourself through hard work, potentially, or with how much you know. Benefits that you might get from this overall alignment, specifically Venus square Saturn, is to develop emotional maturity and responsibility. You can attract stable, appropriate partners that are right for you, create secure financial foundations, and earn self-esteem through overcoming financial or relational challenges. Because after all, Venus is also finance, not just relationship. Then, now while all these other alignments are still happening that I mentioned before, including the Pluto influence, the Saturn influence, and the strong Gemini influence, this little semi-sextile I want to make you guys aware of is Mars sextile Neptune. It happens it goes perfected at 4:32 on the 8th. And this is the Mystic Warrior Night. It's a very quietly but growth-oriented opportunity for you if you can tap into this. Mars and Neptune in a semi-sextile. This night is a spiritual pioneer, fearlessly charging after exalted visions, seeking to bring heaven down to earth. It's a foreshadowing to our August and September timeframe this year, 2024, as I'm working on those energy windows right now. And it is this context, heaven on earth, or Earth, New Earth 2.0, something along those lines. Still working on it, but it's very much a foreshadowing here. Yet his battles, we're talking about Mars, his battles are often with the unseen, his own illusions, the collective unconscious, perhaps the divine itself. He must learn to wield his sword with wisdom. You may feel bringing spiritual awareness into direct, bold action, and maybe acting decisively on intuitive guidance. It's the opportunity here. So follow your heart. Now, Venus goes into Taurus at 11:34 p.m., so basically midnight in Central Time Zone on the 8th of June. And so when you wake up the next day on Sunday, the context changes. Not only do you have Mars in Taurus, but you have Sun and Saturn hitting a perfected square. So what do we have here? Well, the Mars going into Taurus, I love this picture, is the bull in the china shop. aggressive, forceful energy moves into a sign that desires peace, comfort, and stability. Mars wants to charge ahead and get things done yesterday, while Taurus is content to just munch on the grass in the pasture, taking his sweet time. So we may feel on Sunday harnessing drive and passion for practical goals. You may feel the joy of working hard for what you value. Develop patience and inner peace amid chaos. There's one of your opportunities. Standing your ground for the sake of stability, digging your heels in. We are still in the background, mutable, very strong, so adaptable, change-oriented, and air. So mutable air, we're still Gemini signature in the background. So a reminder, we started this last week, is this Jupiter trine Pluto. And so, not that it goes exact or anything, but it's still a powerful influence because these are slower planets. It's the channel of higher wisdom that penetrates the veil of illusion. And it reveals the deeper truths that can liberate humanity. And I bring this because I love it. I love that concept. This is part of that forced learning, in my opinion. And it's an important one that can easily go unseen, is this the forced learning is swayed toward, even though the things are negative, are showing humanity how to liberate itself. And so it's not like welcome in bad things. It's not like that, but it's the silver lining, I guess, is all what we're waiting for. It's waiting for people to see the oppression so that we can break out of it. Tuesday, 11th, we have Mars square Pluto, and it goes exact. And so now it's the bulldozer and the earthquake. It is a big force, even though the energies are much more Gemini. And I'm not saying those don't exist. I'm just adding to the fire here. We have the bull in the china shop squaring over to Pluto. And so we have the bulldozer and the earthquake. It's like a massive bulldozer fighting against an earth-shattering quake. Mars in Taurus wants to push forward slowly but surely, while Pluto in Aquarius demands swift, irreversible transformation. Wants it yesterday. It's the ultimate cosmic battle between preservation and annihilation. So there you go. Big, powerful forces. And that's kind of adds to this force to learn thing. It's the battle and the conflicts that will force us to learn. So what does this feel like? Mars square Pluto. Well, like developing resilience and inner power through upheaval. There's kind of like the same sort of context of the bird's nest is burned, no longer usable. Embodying unwavered values while embracing necessary reforms, intractable power struggles with no clear winner. Can you step back from this energy, and can you see how there is no clear winner and people are just fighting for the sake of fighting? Explosive anger and destructive clashes of will. So choose your battles wisely. Find healthy outlets for the intensity, like martial arts, HIIT, intense exercise, instead of engaging with these unwinnable fights. And we'll get to the solution slide too to be much more profound. But now Wednesday the 12th, you're going to see this massive square. All the energies are basically conflicted. You've got Gemini conflicted with Pisces. And it is fairly precise, but it's growing. You've got 3 players over in Gemini, 2 players in Pisces. So it's the logical mind clashes with the intuitive heart. Facts and data meet faith and dreams. Duality and oneness, intense, dynamic interplay. It's like the left and right hemispheres of the brain engaged in cerebral combat. So this feeling here, this tense pressure, is going to feel like developing a more holistic, integrative intelligence. There's the force to learn again, or like summary statement of the whole week. Temper logic with compassion and imagination. Communicate profound spiritual truth. So again, even though it doesn't feel real good, there are big outcomes in the mental realm and the heart realm, for that matter. All right, let's move on to the I-Ching. This is 56, the Wanderer. We do have change lines 3 and 6. And so I like to go straight to the change lines. The situation can become dangerous. That's line 3. And line 6 is a changing line in this position, suggests a bird whose nest is burned up. You got to wonder, is this line sort of like, is our nest burning? Is America burning? With these change lines in 56, it feels like setback and loss, possible emotional upheaval, sense of misfortune and disqualification. And again, this forces us to wander and adapt and change and morph. And if you can't, that's poses a lot of problems. Fortunately, the energy is Gemini, so we should have at least more, even if you're more of a earth sign or a water sign. The Gemini energy this week is so strong that should help you through this adaptation process. All right, let's get into our summary of the influence so we can talk about the solution. So we have this little boy here. He's in the house of knowledge and learning, and you see it's total awe because Saturn is like the grandfather said, okay, you have this week, you must read every one of these books, son, grandson. All right, so although the I-Ching 56 is typically very apropos with strong Gemini dominance, the change lines suggest a somewhat ominous origin. I say somewhat ominous, not horrific, hopefully, just somewhat, just kind of like it's that forcing and the fear of the unknown. And this is the origin behind an apparent need for adaptation. Indeed, the strong astrological influences do indicate a necessity for accommodation. First, the new moon in Gemini thirst for a new knowledge and understanding, and then the squares to Saturn push a severe pressure onto all things knowledge and learning and communication. And you have to wonder, will there be a problem accessing information? And then there's Mars square Pluto, where it's the bulldozer versus earthquake. There's also the Gemini square Pisces. All bets are off on what transpires this week. All right, there's the solution. Let's hit this. I'm sorry, there was the influence. Let's hit the solution. You put the change lines in, you get hexagram 16. And now we're looking for behaviors in our reading. First, arouse the passionate support of others while adjusting your ideas and plans to suit their needs. We've talked about why this even exists in the original alignments. To arouse others, redouble your dedication and dare to create an environment that is free of tension. So you're going to take the tension in the social environment. And this was the original butterfly in a cage concept, is can she reduce the tension in the group? Can she increase the oneness of the group? Can she bring people together? Can she empathize with others? All this is right here. Take your joy in your work. Harness the power of song and dance in your own way. So basically, try to have fun. Encourage a positive attitude. Coordinate and collaborate. Lead with enthusiasm. Create a joyful environment. All right. Now let's look at our conversion chart. This is, I think, the first time ever we have 3 fast-moving planets all in the same, not just the same rave hexagram, but also the same line. So that's very, very tight within a half a degree. So that's important. This is really unusual, and we'll look at that in it has a profound impact on today's, not only our influence, but also the solution. And then we have Sidereal Taurus again, as we did last week. So here's the rave 35. It says progress. So all bets off, since it's so strong in the hexagram. This is the result. We're going to have progress this week. And line 6 is rectification. It means that something is getting fixed. It is righting the wrong. The energy to correct is the line here. And I'm foot stomping. Very rare to have a reading on the same line. We have 3 planets instead of, normally it's just 1. Sometimes we have 2, like new moons, eclipses. So that's not even very common. But 3 planets, hardly ever. So this is unusual. The process of crystallization coupled with ambition that assures timely and effective correction, progressive change that results from correction. So you can see this strong energy is corrective and rectifying. If that's not encouraging, I don't know what is. So here's our solution slide. And by the way, I have a extra surprise for this week. So hang on after the solution, and I need your feedback. All right. Here we have, remember, the triangulation is between I-Ching 16, enthusiasm, the rave mandala, we just read that, rectification, which is righting the wrongs, correcting. We have Sidereal Taurus, and we have a new moon. So time to get your engines started, surfers. The break is over. And we need to get our game faces back on. This lunar cycle is a big one, and according to the rave, is about rectification, the process of crystallizing coupled with ambition. And we have plenty of those energies in the alignments to go with, so it shouldn't be a problem using this solution. And this whole thing that we're triangulating applies for the next 29 days, because we're starting the new moon cycle. While bringing energy and enthusiasm to the collective, it's time to deliberately and obstinately push forward with determination and integrity. I'm getting that from the Sidereal Taurus, because we're going to behave in accordance with Sidereal, but we're going to use the energies from the Tropical. At the onset of the surf week, it is more planning and setting goals, but by the end of our surf week, we're basically into the first quarter moon. So start the throttle revving up, and action can be initiated. I-Ching 16 encourages leadership by example, collective preparedness, and maintaining awareness. Stay positive and motivated. That's the I-Ching 16. Stay positive and motivated, but don't be afraid to lean in, dig deep, and push the scrum forward. What's a scrum? Is it any of you in rugby ever played rugby? I played rugby in college and loved it, but that's the scrum. I wasn't part of the scrum. I was the scrum half, but the scrum are the big people up front and moving the other big people. So that's the scrum. All right, that's the solution. Are you ready for your surprise? I need your feedback, please. So what do we do here? Let's move here. All right, we're introducing a new idea. Want to get your feedback on if you like this concept. We're going to introduce a herb or a plant per week. And I like how it's sort of like the rave. If you ever notice the rave mandala readings, just always seem to be a melding of both the tropical and the sidereal. It's like the influence and the solution in one package. And I think that we've done that here, where we're getting the best of the influence powered by Mercury and invoking the sacred masculine, but also focusing on the solution, how this plant, this is the lion's mane mushroom, can help with the solution. And try to remember what that solution is. It's staying positive, enthusiasm, rectification, correcting. So we like this because it prevents fatigue. Lion's mane prevents fatigue, reduces anxiety. So that gives you in your mind an excellent for calming and improving cognitive function in a week that we really need to be paying attention. And so it does a bunch of other things. By the way, this is not medical advice. I don't claim to be curing anything. All right. So this is just an idea. And if you like this concept where we take the astrology, both the tropical and sidereal, and we create a suggested plant to help you with this week, type 1 in the comments below saying, yes, I like this idea, want to see it more. If you don't like it, can you type 2 right now and say, nah, I don't like it. Type 3 if you want more time. Maybe just want to see it play out a little more before you decide. Type 3 for that. But lion's mane mushroom goes well this week because of all that. It's a very mental space this week because of the influence in Gemini. So we want to calm that down because otherwise you can have this rush of, especially with the Saturn square, you get this kind of pressure being on stage and having to perform and all that. So we need to calm the mind. That would be perfect here. And then for where it's coming from, powered by Mercury and invoking the sacred masculine, lion's mane can embody strong, driven leadership that unites the gut-brain axis with improving internal communications. Perfect. Connect the higher self to earth through the body using the quantum networks of the fungi for maximum execution. And there's some other things, and you can do your research on lion's mane, but there's our plant of the week. What do you guys think? 1 is type 1 for yes, let's keep doing it. 2, no, I don't like it. And type 3, if you need more time, more examples before you decide. All right. Well, there you go, everybody. We have the influence, we have the solution, and we have a new creative venture. What do you guys think? All right. I think that's a wrap. I really look forward to this week, even though it looks maybe more challenges are on the way. And we'll see you next week in the next CIRF report. Take care, everybody. Love and light. Cheers.